Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for March the 19th, 2020. Today I would like to discuss Scottish independence, because this is still a thing, but due to the, and I know it's called coronavirus, but let's call it another annoying beer, let's think, I'm thinking, bear with me here, I'm thinking we call it the Foster's virus. Because of the Foster's virus, Scotland is going to have to pause the attempts to pursue an independence referendum because of the Foster's virus. I should name it after a whiskey and really stick it to them, but I think sticking with beers is only appropriate. With the Scottish Government confirming it is no longer planning to hold an independence referendum this year, although it still has to get permission from Boris Johnson, which is unlikely. The Constitutional Secretary, Mike Russell, also confirmed that this has been paused because of the Foster's virus pandemic, and that the move would allow the government to focus all of its resources on the health issues. In a letter to the UK government, which I put on the screen here, he says that it follows from this that a referendum will not be held this year, also urging that the UK government place a similar pause on the EU-UK negotiations in the Brexit process, something which may well actually happen because Michel Barnier, the chief negotiator for the EU, has been diagnosed as somebody with the Foster's virus. The Scottish Conservative Shadow Constitutional Secretary Murdo Fraser has also welcomed this, and it should be seen as a relief to workers and businesses alike, which it is, because if you have your independence, those businesses are going to stress. I can't imagine why. This letter was sent to Michael Gove, with them also sending a copy to the Electoral Commission, making it clear that they do not expect it to undertake testing of a referendum question until public health circumstances permit such activity, and that this obviously then allows all available resources on current and future demands to go to the health-related sectors. What makes all of this really interesting to me is, this is one of the very few times all parties and all governments around this country are in unison. As far as fighting this goes, it is their priority. It's why yesterday's PMQs were so incredibly mind-numbingly dull. Because in truth, Corbyn was correct in almost everything he said, apart from the social injustice stuff. That was just cringe. As was Boris in what the government was doing. Granted, people will say, oh, you must do more. But the government is doing as much as it can without causing too much stress to what is an already fragile economy courtesy of this Foster's virus. The fact that all the parties are in unison is confirmed that the Scottish Lib Dem leaders also are in support, as long as the Scottish Greens. Nicola Sturgeon has urged SNP activists to stop campaigning as a way of supporting this measure, because of how important it is for everyone to work together to get this dealt with, instead of putting what many dub a remarkably selfish belief ahead of the national interest, and in this case, international interest. Now, it should be noted, I should outright state this like I did at the beginning, Boris Johnson has already ruled out granting the formal consent, which puts Nicola Sturgeon in a very interesting position, because last thing she wants to do is have an unofficial vote similar to that of Catalonia in 2017. Although I do quite like the idea of Nicola Sturgeon being put in irons and then exiled. Many SNP MPs figures have admitted there is very little chance of a vote being held before next year's Scottish Parliament election. But interestingly, as recently as March the 9th, Ian Blackford told a national newspaper that all the efforts were aimed at holding the referendum this year. I will say, with the Foster's virus taking over and of course causing quite a lot of unnecessary suffering and harm, even Ian Blackford is being smart in Parliament. No joke, the last 2 weeks PMQs he has been very well behaved, which makes it very hard for me to rail on him for being nothing more than a balding, fat, plump paper pervert. Because in truth it means nothing when in this case they're doing something sensible. And pushing this back is the right move, because you're not going to get an actual independence referendum with Boris in charge. And I think in this case your best option is to obviously work with the government to help fix this, and then see how well you do in the next year's Scottish Parliament elections. If the SNP utterly dominate it, which they more than likely will, then an argument could be made perhaps they need to have a little discussion about devolved powers, independence. In truth, I'm not too sure what could happen. I need to look more into Scottish politics, which I will do, of course, because I want to stay away from the Foster's virus as much as possible. Anyway, with this, I'd like to know what you think. So please do tell me in the comments down below.